The online learning before the pandemic was really sort of this hodgepodge of kids who were challenged, kids who were gifted, kids who had work or athletic schedules, and everything changed during the pandemic. Yeah.
You actually had a student that you probably didn't know. His name was Victor. He was one of my students,
Oh,
my
really?
tutoring company, and he went to BCC, which is a
Oh,
school in Bethesda,
yeah.
and he was bullied, and he's still a dear friend of mine. And his father made a decision, many years ago to use K-12. And
Yeah.
Victor and I, when I was starting my tutoring company, we worked very closely. And I'm not gonna say it saved his life, but now he is saving lives. He's actually a paramedic in the DC area. And so Victor was a product of K-12, and he was
Well,
one of those
send,
kids that
send him
didn't
my
fit in.
love. I'm so proud of that story. I think, and this is not about K-12, me or even you. We've got to meet kids where they are. I mean, should be the ultimate goal of education. And the traditional school box approach, as I said earlier, doesn't fit every kid. And we lose too many kids. I'm just so proud and excited to hear about Victor's success. All the leaders on the Hill that you see on TV, and I spoke to the Biden administration education transition team, and I told them that what we should do, we should offer more options for families in today's kid because kids respond to a whole array of learning modalities, and we should master the implementation of those modalities to the benefit of kids. And less is not more. You get that reinforcement in the socialization that some people are concerned about when you are in a classroom setting. But there are teachers out there and there's training out there where teachers can become adept at moving from both the virtual world and the classroom world. By the way, we work with Southern New Hampshire University to create the first master's in virtual education teaching. And they looked at hundreds of hours of tapes of our teachers. We have the efficacy, academic efficacy behind it. And part of our focus is that we want to train a whole cadre of young teachers. We've got some strategic partnerships with some HBCUs. We're bringing out some teachers, and we've got a cohort of a couple hundred teachers this last year that are in that master's program. We want to build an army of innovative teachers that can each one teach one and then spread it out so that we demystify, Josh and Jackie. We need to demystify what's new because I think that the system is so used to Grace Hopper, that the first legendary female scientist, said the most dangerous phrase in the human language is we've always done it that way. Because she faced so much being a woman interested in space back in the 60s. So we've got to explode that idea that, well, we've always done it that way. Every kid can learn. We have to believe that. And then we also have to be committed to treating every kid we teach like we're teaching our own kid. It's sort of a constitutional construct, if you will, that this is sort of the mindset you had to have. Now, I'm a big believer in force of will, that you can do this. We can do this. And I remember reading about Churchill. I'm a big fan of his, that when the bombs were all, Germany was bombing London and people in London were like, oh, we're going to be. And he said, look, vision is seeing beyond what you can see. Do not pay attention to these bombs right now. We are going to overcome this. And literally, he had that belief. And I want us to have that same belief about the power of learning for every child, that we can do this. But to do it, you got to work smart, you got to work hard, you got to be strategic, and you got to be open to new. So that's where I come from. I'm excited for every kid that breaks away and it defies the expectations of what has been placed on them. And I'm excited for America's future. These kids are going to clean up the mess that we've created. But the only way they're going to do that is to feel the engagement associated with embracing learning. So,
I'm excited for you, man.
yeah, thank you.
Growing up watching you, on the council, and then you're doing this. It's so cool to see, how passionate you are about your job now and what you're doing. So I truly appreciate you answering that cold email and coming on.
Well, I know what you're doing. I'm really, really honored by what you are doing, Jackie, what you're doing. And I'm not just saying that. Anyone who devotes themselves to uplifting, our young folks and doing cool new stuff in education, they're doing great work. And so thanks for reaching out. I hope that people understand where I'm coming from. I can tell you right now, people are asking me, what are you running for? I'm running for nothing. I'm running for my life. I want to make sure that whatever seeds I'm planting now, it's really to pave the way for those that are coming past me, because the future is so bright and we just need to embrace it.
Ooh, that's amazing, Kevin. You're such an optimistic.
Well, I am optimistic. I really am. And I've seen a lot of pain. One of the toughest jobs I had was in the council in the middle of the drug war, going to funerals where the casket was this big, the drive-bys in the 90s. It was tough. But I do think that there's meaning behind all that happens. And, we just have to learn and grow from it. I think there's some really great stuff in the offering for humanity if we just get out of our own way. I have a lot of respect for teachers, and I would urge them not to be afraid to learn and grow. Because I think for many teachers, I can't do that. And I've heard teachers who online, I can't do it. I say, yes, you can. Yes, you can. We'll help you. We'll incentivize you. We'll help you. You don't have to worry about it. And I think that we need to empower teachers by professionalizing teaching, give them additional resources, give them additional money, but give them professional development where they're not just sitting in a room and looking at a videotape, which is what a lot of schools do, hands-on training. I'd love to talk about that. I've got 8,000 to 10,000 teachers that work at our company, and I've spent a lot of time with them. And most of them are mission-oriented folks. They're doing it because they love what they do. But I think we can help take them to the next level. And last thing I'll say, Jackie, we need to get out of the political double talk about, I want to support education, more money for teachers. No, we don't need to hear that. Let's actualize it by actually spending time with teachers so they don't have to spend their own money for classroom supplies. Let's help professionalize them, giving them more resources. And then let's ask them to help self-police, because every teacher you talk to will say that so-and-so in the next classroom doesn't know what the heck they're doing. And so I've told Randy Weingarten, I said, look, let's self-police, just like lawyers have disbar bad lawyers and doctors do the same thing. Let's have teachers do that, and I think a lot of teachers would embrace that, because there's some teachers that shouldn't be teaching.
Can you talk about how we got you here, from the politics to obviously being super passionate about education? I'm not saying it wasn't part of your politics, but I think what we saw you was Ward 7, and now here you are and got this passion.
Well, Josh, thank you. I had an interesting journey. I was born in a household, I just talk about it in my book, where there was a learning culture. My father used to have us read. If I asked my father a question, he gave me a book to read, and then we talked about it. And so one of the most proud moments I remember was when I got my own library card, because I could go get the books and talk about it with my father. I didn't know that he was stoking my curiosity at a young age. When I came to Howard Law School and started working in Ward 7 in the Southeast, Northeast DC, that's when I realized, as naive as it sounds, that not everybody had that experience. And it bothered me how so many kids, some of the drug boys I knew on the corner during the crack epidemic, I spent time with them. They were hustling drugs, but they were smart as a whip. And I said, my goodness, this guy, the way they're doing in the drug games, like buying and selling, mergers and acquisitions in corporate America. These guys, they memorize this stuff, they know it, but through no fault of their own, they didn't have that opportunity. So when I joined the council, I didn't join thinking about education. I really joined thinking, Ward 7, we want our fair share. Y'all got a Starbucks in Georgetown, we want Starbucks. You get a new library, new school, we want. I have been a big believer in the parent voice. Actually, I'm a big believer in the student voice as well. I think that in education policymaking, I was just speaking with a bunch of governors in Charleston about this. I said, you guys shouldn't make any decision without talking to parents and kids, because in every other instance, we pay attention to the quote unquote end user. But when it comes to education policy, we don't talk to the parents and kids enough. And so I'm a big believer in doing that. And I also think, Josh, that because of the pandemic, parents got their nose under the tent a little bit. They saw what was going on in the classroom. There was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly. And I think that's going to lead to an explosion of parent voices about what's going on in schools. I think that's a good thing. And so I'm so glad you raised it, because this idea of parent engagement, and people say, well, parent choice, it's parent choice, but it's more. It really is about how you build a community of learners. You can't build a community of learners without including the voices in a more profound way. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Let me ask you one last question. I'll put you on the spot a little bit here. So yes, the kids can learn online, in person. What about you? In terms of online learning. So my parents are taking classes online. My parents are in Rockville, Maryland. They don't get out too much, but they are taking classes online. They're meeting their friends online. What about you? Taking classes online?
I'm not taking any classes right now. I will. I'm very much open to it. I monitor so many of the classes we offer our kids. I mean, literally the curriculum, working through. That's why I can speak about like the recommender button and, reading level. In fact, I engaged in the unboxing exercise where we ship every child that we have in our system a computer. So I went through the exercise of opening up the computer box and logging on. And I had to call IT for help, I must say.
Did they pick up?
Yeah, they picked up, and then it's like, it's like, I'm having a problem here. So I'm a big believer in that. I will be taking class on. You know what class I want to take online?
Bring it.
I hate to admit it. You've got a week. You're going to know about one of my weaknesses. I just don't take well to foreign language, and I want to take Spanish online, and I'm committed to doing that.
You do that, and then you come and visit. All right, I got a place for you to visit. If you hold up your end of the bargain, I'll hold up at mine.
I will do that, Josh. You're on. It's on like popcorn, my friend.
This has been a marvelous conversation about how wonderful these innovations and in learning could be. In order to bring about this change, Kevin, what do we have to do? Is it teacher training? What is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We think globally, we act locally. It's similar to that old Greenpeace expression. While a lot of these ideas, have cachet in an esoteric way, national obsession around learning, building a national learning culture, keeping it positive, that literally it's community by community. And I think one of the first things we need to do is those parents who are now getting engaged and putting together learning pods and learning hubs, I think that we need to coalesce that around some appraisal of what's going on in each classroom for every child and what we can do differently. The other thing that I've suggested to superintendents, that each school superintendent in every district in America should do two things. One, they should look at three things that they have been doing historically and stop doing them. And then two, they should try three new things they've never done before and start. In corporate America, they have the R&D, research and development arm. I think every school district should have some form of that. If you fund it with $20,000 or $2 million, every school district should be pushing toward exploring what's new out there and pilot it in some form or fashion. And that's why I love the idea of committing. You're going to stop doing something and you're going to start doing something new. I think that these schools that are doing innovative work, like You should read about the Lindsay School District in Lindsay, California. They created what I would call an incredible learning culture.